And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Thursday, February 6th. I am Josh Engleman, here to break down a 6-game NBA slate tonight, locking at 7:30. A 7:30, an 8, a 9, two 10s, and a 10:30. And we've got the trade deadline today at 3 o'clock. I will be live somewhere in that noon to 1 o'clock window, all the way up until 3 o'clock when all the deadline deals are finally done. So you don't want to miss that. If you're here, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. Good morning, everybody. We had some trades last night. I figure we could start it off by talking about some of the deals that came in. What do you guys think? I'm guessing you guys want to start with Mark Williams. So, the Lakers did get a center yesterday. Gotta be honest. Don't love it. Don't love it for the Lakers. That does not seem to be the consensus in chat right now. I like it a lot more for Charlotte than I do for LA. Not that I love it for Charlotte either. But I don't love it for the Lakers. One, health scares me. And two, I don't think he's what they need. And that's the tricky part there. This was their chance to get defense, because they don't have it. LeBron's not that guy. Luka's not that guy. Their defense doesn't exist. They had the opportunity to get a good defense by making a move for a center, and they did the opposite of that to me. They went offense more than defense. Mark Williams is one of the worst rim protectors in basketball, which really doesn't make a ton of sense just if you look at him, but he is. And I think that's a mistake long term. Now, look, he's good. He's young. He could grow into it, and maybe that ends up looking a little bit better. I could obviously see the potential in Mark Williams, but I think the Lakers went the wrong direction here. Like, if you're willing to do this and give all of that up, can't you just, get Daniel Gafford? You know what I mean? Again, he's young. The injury history is scary, and he is a not good rim protector. And this team desperately needed someone to be a deterrent at the rim. So it's an interesting balance. It's a lottery ticket, that's for sure. That 2031 unprotected first is the best thing on that deal, though, and it's not close. NY Stiegel, they don't have anything left to move. People keep talking about this. I see this. I see Coach Chris saying we need one more big man like Nick Claxton. What are you guys talking about? You think they're going to get Mark Williams and Nick Claxton? How? What are they going to trade? They're out of first-round picks. They barely have any swaps. They're out of bodies to trade. Who's going anywhere? Luka will still be on the Lakers in 2031. I would have said that Luka would have still been on the Mavs in 2031. Mark Williams has no game skill whatsoever comparable to Kevin Love. That might be one of the worst comps I've ever seen anybody try to type out. They're not even in the ballpark of similar basketball players. Nurkic on the buyout market. I don't think the Lakers can sign Nurkic on the buyout market. Yes, they should trade for Jokic. That would make a lot of sense. I agree there. And again, I don't want to short sell Mark Williams. Like, He's a really good young center. I don't like the fit for what they had to give up. I'd like to find out that I'm wrong. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not surprised by the deal. Like, I don't think the value equation is off at all. Dalton Connect's nothing. He's a totally useless option. But the 2030 pick swap and 31 unprotected, like I don't think they gave up too much. I don't think anything like that. I'm nervous about the fit. I'm nervous about the fit. Arcathelza says Lakers got Mark Williams is crazy. They might be a problem. I mean, they're not a problem in any way. It just all comes down to if Mark Williams can stop being a terrible rim protector. I mean, of anybody that's played 250 minutes this year and is at least 80 inches tall, he's the 8th worst rim protector in basketball. And like Caleb Houston's ahead of him. So is Risache and Giddey. I mean, we're talking about like Karl Anthony Towns level can't protect the rim in any way. That's the part that scares me. Because their defense does not exist. They don't have it. Austin Reeves is a bad defender. LeBron is a bad defender. Luka Doncic is a bad defender. Mark Williams is a big body. But it's odd to me that a person of Mark Williams' stature is as bad of a rim protector as he is. That's scary. But I mean, like for this year, it's meaningless. Like Mark Williams isn't leading you to anything real at this point. The Lakers don't matter at all right now. But look, like having Luka Doncic and Mark Williams, it's a great start for sure. And no problem with it. Now, next deal. Butler to Golden State. Kyle Anderson, PJ Tucker, Andrew Wiggins, and a first to Miami. Lindy Waters and Josh Richardson to Detroit. Dennis Schroeder to Utah. It's whatever. In terms of value, it's fine. Like, the Warriors didn't give up too much. You know, Butler to Wiggins, it's a mild upgrade. You know, Lindy Waters wasn't really playing. Kyle Anderson wasn't really playing. The Schroeder move just didn't work out. So, like, I get it. Does the extension look great? No. I mean, if he would have opted into the player option, we're talking about adding one more year. There are worse things in the world, for sure. Is he going to be overpaid? Yeah. They didn't do anything to, like, really harm themselves. So it's hard for me to get up in arms about it. Would I have done that if I were the Warriors? No. I would not have... I don't think I would have needed to do this. Jazz aren't keeping Dennis. Yeah, probably not. Hall Pass legend Lindy Waters. Yeah, that was my first reply yesterday. Hall Pass girl needs to move to Detroit. But yeah, like solid enough deal for Miami. You know, you get Wiggins, nice cost-controlled contract. Can definitely flip him for another pick later if your team is not where you want them to be. But, you know, I'd be happy to get Wiggins. The rest of those guys don't really matter. Kyle Anderson, I guess, could be, like, mildly interesting alongside Ware or Bam. The Detroit and Utah pieces don't matter at all. Brandon Ingram to the Toronto Raptors. For Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, a first and a second. I don't know what the Raptors are doing. Like, did they win the trade in terms of, like, getting the better player? Yeah, they did. Like, I don't think getting off of Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, a first and a second, That's reasonable to me. Like, that's a nice price. But, like, what do the Raptors want here? So the lineups quickly Barrett, Ingram, Barnes, Pirtle. Like, that feels like it should be good. But all of those guys are, like, simultaneously overrated at the same time. Will those pieces fit together, or is this just like a sea of mismatched parts? Somebody else on their way out? It's hard for me to understand what they're doing. Josh's take on Mark Williams may be the worst take I've ever heard on a DFS channel. He's usually so insightful. Okay, Cass fan, do this. What did I say that's wrong? I'd love to hear this. You tell me what I said that's incorrect. John C., it's weird because, like, he didn't lose this trade. But, like, wouldn't you just rather have OG Anunoby still? Valentino says the Luka take was worse. I mean, I am the consensus opinion on this for the Luka trade. There are crazy people for the Luka trade. It's not the people that think that the Lakers didn't win. But yeah, like, I don't know what this makes the Raptors. I mean, think about that starting five. Quickly, Barrett, Ingram, Barnes, Pirtle. Like, those are real above average NBA players. But what does that make them? What are they now? Are they this just like the best 42-40 team that's ever existed? Yeah, S&P, like, it's S&P said it perfectly here. No surprise. Mark Williams hasn't been a good defender at the NBA level. That's just accurate. He's awesome, but not defensively. But a guy with that size and athleticism and pedigree has it in him, in my opinion. Yeah, like, I'm very surprised that he's a terrible rim protector. I don't understand why that's the case. But it's so bad that it has to be something in him. Defensive awareness, something. Because to be that, like, to get to that range, you can't just do it with small sample bad luck. So something in him causes him to not protect the rim the way that we would expect. Yeah, Lee Price, that's a great point. His playing time is minimal, but it hasn't been minimal because he just hasn't been getting the minutes. Like, the health is a thing. I mean, to me, it shouldn't matter at all that it was Charlotte in terms of protecting the rim. Like, to me, that's not something that, like, sure, a better system can improve it, but I don't see it as, like, I don't think you just go from, like, one of the worst to just functional. Look, he's good. He's good. I don't want to undersell Mark Williams. I don't, like, what they gave up for the trade makes sense. I just don't like the specific fit for the Lakers. They had one opportunity to bring a center in, and I don't necessarily think they have the parts to fit around him. Like, if they could trade Rui for John Isaac or something like that, where you can get rim protection in at the 4 alongside of him, then I'm starting to be a little bit more interested. But if you've got Rui and LeBron at the 3 and the 4, the defense is just bad. I mean, this is a really, really, really bad defense. We have to understand this. Because I think that's being lost on people right now. The Lakers, to this point in the season, have the 16th ranked defense. They traded Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic. This is a bottom 10 defense, no matter what. And I don't know how they improve that. And if you can't improve that, you can't ever be that good. But they have no way to improve that right now. unless Mark Williams takes a leap, and I want to be very clear here. I hope he does. I like him. I'm a Duke fan. I want Mark Williams to be awesome. I just don't know if he's going to have it. Trading Max Christie is the most meaningless thing ever. Do we have any other deals we need to talk about? Kuzma Middleton, I sort of touched on yesterday. That's a wash. Jericho Sims is a salary dump. Joe Val's a salary dump. Jaden Springer's a salary dump. KJ Martin's a salary dump. Tice is a salary dump. Philly won the Quentin Grimes, Caleb Martin deal. So I think we're caught up. Lakers have the second best D the last 10 games. Is that real? Who'd they play? I mean, there's no way that we could look at that stat and think that it's meaningful. John, I'm sure you would agree there. Let me look at it. That's not going to be the right range. All right, let's see. Let's go. I can't just go games right now, so I'm grabbing a date range. That's going to be too many. That's 12 games. All right, let's just go to January 15th. Yeah, third in defense. 109 defensive rating in that time. Weird. Very weird. Anyway, fun times. Trade deadline coming up. But for now, we got a 6-game slate to break down. NY Stiegel, yeah, I mean, sort of. I mean, Jared Vanderbilt's playing like 14 minutes a night, so I wouldn't go too crazy there. My guess is that is a fluke of good shooting, poor shooting, and just a 10-game quirk. There's nothing about the Lakers that says that they should have a really good defense, especially now. Let's talk about a team that the Lakers just dealt with, and that would be the Dallas Mavericks. 10.5-point underdogs in Boston, 230 total. Not a lot of ownership coming into Dallas. I don't think that's all that surprising. We have a Q tag on Anthony Davis, so we don't know if he's going to be in for this one. They could use him, that's for sure. No Lively. I would be very surprised if Caleb Martin is available for today, but if we get Caleb Martin available, we probably won't know that until after 3 o'clock. Because if any of these teams are doing any more moves, I don't know if that trade has been finalized yet. They could try to work it into other stuff. So pay attention, because I think Caleb Martin could potentially be available today, but I don't think we'll know until after the deadline. No Dwight Powell, no PJ Washington, no ownership here. 5% to AD, no more than 3 to anybody else. That would be Daniel Gafford. I think 5 to 10% on AD makes a lot of sense. You could give me 5% of Kyrie or Gafford, and I think that makes sense. But this is a bad spot for Dallas. 10-point dogs. They're the biggest underdog on today's slate. Let's remember that, by the way. Let's pay attention to this line. Like, they're massive underdogs here against Boston. And I don't think they look very good DFS-wise. And, like, if AD is out, then, maybe we're looking at the bench guys for value. Oh, sorry, guys. There we go. Appreciate you, S&P. I just, the Dallas bench guys aren't good per minute, dudes. Clay's a 0.8 guy. Najee's a 0.8 guy. Max Christie's a 0.6 guy. Dinwiddie's a 0.8 guy. Exum is a 0.75 guy. There's nothing here for me for Dallas. I'm good. I'm good here. But we need that AD news. I just don't think that even if we get it, we're going to create any sort of value. Yeah, John, my guess is that they're gonna trade these guys in the summer. I think it'll be a little bit easier at that point. But I agree. If I'm Ishbia, I'm trading him and Booker immediately. But that's probably why they won't want me to do that job, because I will lose $1 billion of franchise value. All right, for Boston. Not too much here to worry about. Drew Holiday, questionable. He is pulling 10% ownership, as is Jason Tatum, as is Jaylen Brown. Porzingis is around 15. Price is up to 7,500 now. Light ownership to Derek White. But as we see it for Boston, I mean, these guys are essentially at full strength. If Drew plays, they've got their whole rotation. And at that point, you're just paying attention to starters and not much else. I think Jason Tatum's pretty clearly your best option. 9,800. Small forward, power forward eligible. 38% chance of 55.5 fantasy points. NBA fan. There's a 0% chance that Drew Holiday would get traded this season unless they brought back another guy that is also a rotation level dude. They would never trade Drew right now. In the summer, someone's leaving the Boston Celtics. But there's no chance they're taking a step back during the season. Yeah, I would rank Boston Tatum, Drew, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis. I think Derek White's a little underowned. I think Tatum's a little underowned. I think Brown's properly owned. Holiday's properly owned. And I think Kristaps Porzingis is a hair overowned. But revenge narrative alert. Mitchell Mayo says Jaylen Brown will be on another team next season. I'd be very surprised if it were Jaylen Brown. I think it's Drew. I think they swap out Drew for a different guard. I think if you're Boston, you don't ever break up Tatum and Brown until you don't have a choice. Yeah, the Porzingis revenge might actually have died with the Luka trade. That's a great point. All right, game number 2. Houston Rockets, 1.5 point favorites in Minnesota, 241 total. This is the highest total of the slate, but oddly enough, the lowest pace of the slate. Kind of weird. But we got some offense here, and we got a thin Houston team as well. Steven Adams doubtful, no Jabari Smith, no Fred VanVleet. We're getting 30% ownership to Tari Eason, and then like 5 to Amin Thompson, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Alperen Şengün, and Cam Whitmore. I think Amin Thompson is pretty significantly underowned at 4%. I got him 12% optimal, 27% chance of 49 fantasy points. So I think he should be 10% owned. I think Jalen Green should be 10% owned. I think Dylan Brooks should be 10% owned. I think Alperen Şengün should be 10% owned. And then Tari Eason at 30? Maybe a tad high, but 25 would look absolutely perfect. Power forward only, 5,200. Minutes are there. He played 30 recently. I only went 28. And then Cam Whitmore's value at 4,100 is a guy you can click on. But Tari Eason's very clearly the best Houston Rocket today. But the rest of those starters, Thompson, Green, Brooks, Şengün, they're all underowned. I love this Houston side today. Love them. Hard not to. Why not? This total's great. I'm surprised they're not getting more ownership. Do you guys like Houston today? I'm curious if you guys are on the same page as me. I feel like chat's going to like Amin Thompson today because chat likes Amin Thompson. Oh, Blake, is that the reason? That makes way more sense. Did I fat finger that one? Sure fucking did. Sure did. 214 total. Lowest total on the slate. Slowest pace game. makes a lot more sense. Thanks, Blake. I would have caught it eventually. Yeah, so I do still think that the Houston starters look good. That's going to cut them down a bit. Here's an interesting way to look at it. So if I set that line back to 241, 239.5 is the total projection to Houston. 239.5. Now it's down to 225.8. We lost like 6%. 5.7% reduction in fantasy scoring. Zion fingered it. Yeah. Yeah, it looked weird to me too. I probably should have just looked at the line immediately. I'm glad I have somebody here checking it. Yeah, look, Tari Eason's still going to look really good. Starters look all right. Not as good as I thought they looked 5 minutes ago. But Eason's a guy today. 5,200 power forward only for a fantasy point per minute guy. You need 33.5 out of him. Yeah, we got to go to Houston today. Now, Minnesota, still without Dante DiVincenzo, still without Julius Randle. 10% ownership coming into Ant at 9,700. He's an interesting comp to Jason Tatum today. 30% ownership coming into Naz Reid, the Minnesota version of Tari Eason, I guess. I got him 16% optimal, 34% boom score, target score of 39 fantasy points. Yeah, Naz Reid deserves every bit of 25 to 30% ownership. Minutes are huge. Starting, he's just stepping directly into that Julius Randle role. Yeah, give me all the Naz Reid. But give me some Ant. McDaniels is pretty much as expensive as he could possibly be now. Rudy Gobert looks okay. Nickeil Alexander-Walker looks okay. Mike Conley looks okay. I would say Naz Reid is a priority. And I would say that Anthony Edwards is under-owned at 11%. You guys like anything here from Minnesota? It's a fun spot, Houston, Minnesota. I'm paying attention to Twitter as much as I can because I keep feeling like something's going to break while we're talking, which would be fun. Oh, big news. Thunder star Chet Holmgren is off the team's injury report, clearing the way for him to return to action on Friday in OKC. We are getting Chet back on Friday, and we're finally going to get to see Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein alongside of each other. Good luck, league. Good luck. Not only that, OKC is going to get something today to gear up. Welcome back, Chet. That is awesome. Jack Adams, wrong player. Nobody wants DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter. I'm talking ill about DeAndre Hunter for nothing. I don't want the Cavs to have nice things. I can't be cheering for Cleveland. You know? All right, let's go to game number 3. Orlando Magic. 8-point dogs in Denver, 221 total. Obviously, both of these teams are on the back-to-back, but Orlando is awesome. So they put out their injury report. Q-tag KCP, Q-tag Gary Harris, doubtful tag Jalen Suggs. Got about 10% ownership to Paolo, 10% ownership to Franz, no ownership at all coming into the rest of the Magic. I would argue Paolo under-owned at 8,400, power forward only. I at least have a little bit of interest there. Franz probably properly owned at 12%. KCP at 4K is probably a hair under-owned, but he's as uninteresting to roster as really anyone could be. Christian Valentine. I would rather have Dean Wade than DeAndre Hunter if I were the Cavs. I don't think it's close either. But I would 100% rather have Dean Wade. For that team, for sure. Yeah, Paolo's ahead of Franz for me pretty clearly. I think you need 49 out of him. I mean, Paolo is cheaper than Franz, and he's just a better fantasy guy. But dude can't make a bucket right now. Maybe Denver cures him. Dean Wade is one of those guys that will just perpetually not get credit because nobody grades guys that don't have usage correctly. If you've got Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen out on the floor, the last thing you need is a 23% usage DeAndre Hunter. It's the same reason you don't want Karis LeVert in that role. You get Dean Wade out there playing defense 2 through 5. All he has to do is shoot open threes. He's a perfect fit. All of these good teams need Dean Wades. They're just as valuable. Because sometimes you just need that fifth person to fit into a lineup and not take the ball. Your PJ Tuckers, your Danny Greens. Get somebody out there that plays defense, shoot threes, doesn't need to be involved. The value there is massive. All right, let's go to Denver. So this Denver team's shorthanded. Obviously, no Russell Westbrook and no Peyton Watson right now. I'm not expecting Aaron Gordon to play on this back-to-back. And that leaves these guys thin because then we start getting minutes to Zeke Naji, Hunter Tyson, Jalen Pickett. Maybe Saric gets dusted off today. R. Stanley, there is a 0% chance that Oklahoma City is trading Isaiah Hartenstein. Where do we get this stuff? How does this happen? 10% ownership coming into Jokic. He's 12,800 today. Big price tag, obviously. But Nikola Jokic. He's a 1.7 plus fantasy point per minute guy. Great matchup? No, not at all. Does it matter to me? No, not at all. If you could roster Jokic and you have the salary, do it. Do it. 10% ownership to Murray. Nobody to stop him from taking any shot he wants. I think 10% makes a ton of sense. MPJ is pulling 20% ownership, which I get. I could be a little light on MPJ's minutes with all these guys out, but at 33, he looks solid. I just wouldn't call him a 10%er. Coach Chris, yes, he did play the back-to-back at the end of January, beginning of February. Christian Brown, 10% own makes some sense to me. Julian Strother, probably not. I mean, Zeke Naji will be interesting if Gordon doesn't play. 3,600 power forward center eligible. Darnell Perkins, throw that in the garbage. If Najee's going to get the real run, he played 30 minutes a couple games ago. Might be someone we want to pay attention to. But if I'm ranking Denver, it's Murray, it's Brown, it's Jokic, it's Porter. All right, guys. Let's at least talk a little bit about SB75. That is the promo code for 75% off the portfolio EV tool at oddshopper.com. If you're a pick'em player or a sportsbook guy, either way, this is the way to make some extra cash. Take a market-based approach to beating the books. We'll provide you expected win rate and expected value on all of the props that are available. You could shop around to multiple sports books. We've got parlay builders, odds boost calculators, live data, trend data if that's something you want to look at. I'm going to cough. Instead of playing cash games, I think you should grind your bankroll this way. by taking small wins in the sports betting and pick'em side and then using those winnings in your DFS play. That would be my recommendation. So there's a link in the description. The promo code is SB75. Enter that in, get the Portfolio EV tool for 75% off. This deal ends on Sunday. All right, game number 4. Golden State Warriors, 7.5-point dogs in Los Angeles, taking on the Lakers, 221 total. So the Warriors basically don't have anybody on their team today. As best I can tell, they have 10 bodies. Because obviously Kyle Anderson's not there. Dennis Schroeder's not there. I don't think Draymond Green is going to be playing the back-to-back. Who else are we missing? Obviously, Andrew Wiggins isn't here. Jimmy Butler's not going to be available. So the Warriors are the team today. They're 230% owned. Nobody else has north of 90% ownership. Guys like Jackson Rowe and Pat Spencer are going to be playing today. The Warriors are going to be insane. 25% ownership to Steph. Now, right now, there's 75% to Podziemski. It's not going to be that, but he's going to be like 50% owned. Buddy Hield's going to be 50% owned. Moses Moody is questionable, potentially. Trace Jackson Davis hasn't been in the rotation. He's got to play today. Pat Spencer's 10% owned. Gary Payton is 10% owned. Quentin Post is 20% owned. Kevon Looney is 25% owned. Don't get bogged down onto the individual ownership numbers right now. The takeaway here needs to remember that Golden State's the best team. Because if Draymond's not playing, they have 10 guys, and some of those guys are not real basketball players. And there's no telling if they do anything else. There's no telling. They might not have Moody today. They might not have Trace Jackson Davis today. Like, we don't even know what their injury report looks like because they played yesterday. These guys are dinged up. Gui Santos left the game early yesterday. This is a tricky spot for Golden State. But whatever we get from them tonight is going to be huge value. Steph Curry is 8,200. The next most expensive player on the Warriors is 4,400 for Brandon Podziemski. So we need their injury report. We need to find out who's available. But I'm fully expecting the Golden State Warriors to be the most owned team on today's slate. And I don't know how they wouldn't be. They could have less than 10 guys tonight, potentially. Be ready for it. But they're going to run out of lineup at some point with like Pat Spencer, Gary Payton, Jackson Rowe, Moses Moody, and Quentin Post. Rough. Wade is barbecue chicken guarding anyone. Well, that's the whole reason he plays for the Cavs, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that that's not true. City Sissoko got waived by the Wizards. I thought he was going to be hanging out forever. Pay attention to the Warriors, guys. We go to the Lakers. Now, Lakers obviously aren't going to be with Luka Doncic for today. LeBron is probable. Cam Reddish got shipped out in the trade yesterday. Gabe Vincent is probable. 30% ownership coming into LeBron. He's 10,800. Now, I have him 10% optimal, 29% boom. I think LeBron is a little over-owned. You think about the ownership that's going into Jason Tatum and Anthony Edwards right now. Should LeBron James be 30 if those guys are like 10 to 15? I don't think so. I think LeBron's over-owned in comparison to some of the other pay-up options. Rui's 20% owned. I think that makes a lot of sense. They don't have a ton of bodies that can do what Rui does. So in 33 minutes at 5,300, to me, Rui is the easiest guy to click on for the Lakers. And then you don't have much ownership coming into the rest of these guys, but 13% to Dorian Finney-Smith makes sense. I think Austin Reeves is probably a little under-owned at 6%. You can get him up to 10, and I think it makes some sense. Jackson Hayes, not that special, doesn't play enough. Shake Milton off the bench at 3,100. Point guard, shooting guard eligible. I could talk myself into that. Maybe. I think Bronny might play today. I think we could see a Bronny James rotation. Vanderbilt's not going to play enough, unfortunately, although eventually he might. But if I'm ranking the Lakers, it would be Rui Hachimura 1, Austin Reeves 2, Dorian Finney-Smith 3, Shake Milton 4, LeBron James 5. Yeah, I don't want to have Shake Milton, but I think that at least as we stand right now, Shake Milton is a good value option. That's gross. Gross. Yeah, Rui? At least for right now, what choice do they have? But I don't agree with that LeBron ownership. Do you guys like LeBron today at 30% ownership? Just knowing what else is out there? Knowing we have Jokic, knowing we might have AD, $9,800 Tatum, $9,700 Ant, $9,600 Sabonis. Like, I'm not saying I don't like LeBron today, but 30% just seems a little high. Just seems a little inflated. That's all. All right, 2 more to go. Let's see, do we have a schedule yet? Find out. We do. All right, schedule for the rest of the day. I will be back for the trade deadline show sometime between 12 and 1 o'clock, depending on when the news comes in, and I will be on until at least 3 o'clock. You'll have the NHL strategy show at 2 p.m. Eric and Spags will be on the deeper dive. Greg and Bellman will be on live before lock at 7:30, from 6:30 to 7:30. If I'm the Cleveland Cavaliers, I would rather have Dean Wade than DeAndre Hunter. Eventually, you just, like, in that scenario, you turn DeAndre Hunter from a 23% usage guy to like a 17% usage guy. Well, if you're going to do that, then you might as well just keep the guy that already doesn't do it. The Sacramento Kings are 1-point dogs in Portland. 229 total. Now, we don't have a Kings injury report, but I think we could safely assume that everybody that's normally available is available. %10 ownership to Sabonis, 15 to Monk, 10 to DeRozan, 10 to Murray, 2 to Levine. It's kind of the same situation we always have for Sacramento. You could play the starting 5, and I wouldn't play anybody else. I think Keegan Murray's the easiest name to click on. I think Sabonis looks great around 15%. I think DeMar looks great in that 10 to 15% range. I think Levine is under-owned at 2%, but not by much. I think Malik Monk is over-owned at 14%, but not by much. I don't think Zach LaVine and Malik Monk look all that different. Levine's got a better positional eligibility, but yet Monk's 14% owned and Levine is 2%. Doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but I don't really see a priority from the Kings either. That's the argument we love. Only people who played understand what we're saying. Perfect. All these guys that have played basketball before, certainly not me. All the players know how to evaluate talent. That seems to go well in history. Yeah, that makes sense. That is, without question, the dumbest argument in all arguments. It never gets any dumber than that. It really doesn't. We're ranking Sacramento. It's Keegan Murray, Sabonis, DeRozan, Levine, and Monk. Their opponents, the scorching hot Portland Trailblazers, are on a back-to-back. We don't know who's going to be available today. 20% ownership coming into Denny Avdia, 15 to DeAndre Ayton, and then 5 to 10 on Kamara, Simons, and Grant. I think, 20% for Avdia feels a tad high, but nothing too crazy. Mitchell Mayo going out on a limb and saying that the favorites in the game are going to win the game. Hell of a take there, Mitchell. Can't believe you're going out on that limb. I'd say Avdia is a little over-owned at 22%. Something in that 15 to 10% range makes more sense. As always, I'm a little bit more interested in Simons than the field is. I think Ayton around 15% makes a ton of sense. I think Tamani Kamara, given the minutes that he's been playing lately, is under-owned at 4%. Because he's not a bad per minute guy. He's like a 0.85 dude. Now he's 6K. That price is getting problematic. He's shooting guard small forward. He's playing 35 minutes a night. I like Kamara. I would rank Portland Simons, Kamara, Ayton, Avdia, Grant. I don't see a path to getting to Scoot or Shaden Sharp off the bench. S&P, you have explained this perfectly. Perfectly. But we need this Portland injury report. That's sort of the problem with today. We need the Kings injury report. Oh, we have the Portland injury report. I don't know what I'm saying. We need the Kings injury report, the Warriors, the Nuggets, the Wolves, and then we have the deadline to just complicate matters here. Final game of the slate. The Indiana Pacers. 5-point underdogs in LA, taking on the Clippers. 10:30 start here. No ownership coming into the Pacers, not surprising. Clippers are at full strength. Their defense is good. 5% ownership to Siakam, 5% ownership to Turner. You give me 5 to 10% of Siakam and Turner, and I think that's fine. You give me 5 to 10% of Tyrese Halliburton at 8,100. I think that's fine. There is no chance I'm prioritizing anything from Indy here. This is just not the spot. They are the second lowest owned team on the slate behind the Dallas Mavericks. I just don't see it. Like, you want to get Halliburton or Siakam or Turner in lineups, I think that's fine. But they are not priorities, especially if they have everybody in, which by all accounts they do. And then on the Clippers side, this is where we're getting the ownership because they get the benefit of a really nice matchup against the crappy Indiana Pacers defense. 30% ownership to Norm Powell, 6,900, shooting guard, small forward eligible. I got him 17% optimal. Norm Powell's my number 8 play on DraftKings right now. I don't think 30% ownership here for Powell is crazy at all. I don't think 30% ownership for Ivica Zubac at 7,200 is crazy at all. I think both of those guys should be 30% owned, and they're some of the best plays on the slate. And then Harden is coming in at about 15. I have him 14% optimal, 35% chance of 52 fantasy points. He deserves every bit of that ownership at 9K. And then Kawhi, you want to get 10% of Kawhi at 6,800? I think he's a 10% owned guy. The Clippers look way better than I ever thought they would. The Clippers right now are the second most owned team behind the Lakers. Behind the Warriors, rather. Sorry. That's not what I was expecting. I don't know where you guys land on it. So I guess Turner stays a Pacer. Seems like it. But if you're looking at the Clippers, Zubac and Powell priorities, James Harden really good. Kawhi Leonard, rosterable. We are at the end of the line, folks. It is deadline day. I'll be back in a couple hours to break down any trades that are coming in the afternoon. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Ricky Rose, the trade deadline is done at 3. You usually see a deal or two trickle out from 3 to 3:15 as all of the final details are coming in. So I'll probably be live in between noon and 1 until like 3:15 to 3:30, somewhere in that neighborhood. That's where we're at, folks. The event is already scheduled. It's on our YouTube channel. Go check it out. Hit that like button on your way out the door. Let's have a fun day. I'll talk to you guys later.